How are you? Yeah.
Right about now, you're probably excited. You're probably cheering. They posted Manon for her birthday. They posted Manon for her birthday. But just like this isn't a normal hiatus, that birthday post wasn't the normal birthday post that they always post for those girls' birthday. If you want to check what I'm saying, let's look at the last four birthday posts that they posted going back into 2025 and in fact going back into late 2024. Sophia's birthday came with a birthday card. Yuncha's birthday came with a birthday card. Laura's birthday came with a birthday card. Megan's birthday came with a birthday card. And before you go, this is probably their new format for 2026. I want to remind you, 10 days before Manon went on hiatus, they dropped a birthday post for Megan and it included a birthday card signed by Manon. Danny's birthday came with a birthday card. Since they started doing the introduction of the birthday cards since 2024, all came with a birthday card. This group is so dumb. You just did an interview yesterday talking about how your best friends, their sisters, their bridesmaids, we're gonna be at each other's wedding. And the first post you're making about the member you forced on hiatus, the very first post you're making about the member that you forced on hiatus, you're omitting the one thing that can easily disprove that there's tension between the girls. A birthday card. Happy that you're happy. And I know the people who are happy are the racist fans. They're like, oh my god, you see, they posted about her. They posted about her. You guys are so wrong. They posted about her. They posted about her with a giant hole. They posted about her in a way that we know that they don't post birthdays. And you know with Cat's Eye, they only make one birthday post. They don't make multiple. They make one birthday post and that's it. And the one birthday post always has a card. So what happened? The sisterhood vanished after their law interview. What happened? Let the day end. Lara has already wished one of her friends, Destiny Conrad or Conrad Destiny or whatever, happy birthday. Sophia was on live talking about Danny's birthday and the gift that she got Danny. Her birthday is on July 1st.
Danny's birthday is coming up, and I painted something for her. And then I gave it to her early. I gave it her today. And then
This is all we get. A photo, and they said, you wish her a happy birthday. We ain't gonna do it, but you guys can do it in our comment section.
Hype and rage bait marketing have recently gone hand in hand. Let's talk about it. If you've been following HYBE and their joint venture with Geffen Records, HXG, you've likely noticed a pattern with groups like LESSEIFIM, ILLIT, and KATSEYE more recently. Fans of Manon and even the K-pop side of it are increasingly accusing these companies of utilizing rage bait marketing. It's the digital equivalent of any press is good press. But when this strategy intersects with real people, specifically young women, and even more specifically, young black women, it stops being a clever marketing tactic and becomes a system of exploitation. Today, we're going to break down how these labels weaponize controversy for clout and why it is actively harming the black community. To understand what's happening with KATSEYE, we first have to look at the blueprint. Rage baiting in this context means a company intentionally allowing, or even creating, controversial situations because it keeps their artists trending in the algorithm. Take LESSEIFIM. HYBE has released multiple documentaries showcasing the group's most agonizing, vulnerable moments, members having panic attacks, crying over their vocals, or being scolded by management over self-management, which is an industry euphemism for extreme weight control. The company isn't doing this just for transparency. They are selling the girls' pain as a parasocial product. It creates a hyper-defensive fanbase willing to stream and buy out of sheer empathy, while simultaneously throwing the group to the wolves online. We saw a similar phenomenon with ILLIT. Right at their debut, they were caught in the crossfire of corporate infighting between HYBE and former ADOR CEO Min Hee-jin. Instead of protecting their rookies from the immense hate train, the label largely let them take the heat. The vitriol over their live vocals and concepts was massive, but the engagement was astronomical. The company cashes the checks while the idols absorb the mental toll. No matter what side you're on, isn't that a bit weird? The labels are essentially weaponizing the protective instincts of their consumers. They get the clout, the record-breaking debut numbers, and the viral TikTok audios, but the artists themselves are the ones who have to absorb the psychological damage of being universally hated on social media for weeks at a time. But if you want to see the absolute pinnacle of this strategy, look no further than how HYBE utilized the fallout from the New Jeans and Min Hee-jin civil war. For the past couple of years, the corporate battle between HYBE executives and the former ADOR CEO has been the biggest story in K-pop. But rather than shielding their newly debuted idols from boardroom politics, HYBE allowed groups like ILLIT and LESSERIFIM to become the public punching bags of this conflict. When Min Hee-jin publicly accused ILLIT of being a New Jeans copycat, and by the way, said not to attack those girls, or when the messy allegations came out about HYBE managers allegedly telling ILLIT to ignore New Jeans in the hallways, the resulting hate train against these rookie girls was apocalyptic. They were teenagers being blamed for corporate sabotage. And what did HYBE do? They capitalized on it. By allowing ILLIT and LESSERIFIM to endure massive hate campaigns orchestrated by rival fandoms, the company successfully painted them as the ultimate victims. HYBE indirectly reminded company stans that if they didn't stream, vote, and fight for these girls, no one else would. They used the New Jeans conflict as a foil to force an extremely parasocial, trauma-bonded relationship between the fans and the newer groups. You weren't just streaming Magnetic or Smart because it was a catchy pop song. You were streaming it as a political statement against Min Hee-jin and the New Jeans fandom. The marketing subconsciously tells fans, look at what these girls are going through, look at how the world hates them, you have to protect them. It shifts the relationship from enjoying art to feeling a moral obligation to ensure a group's survival. When a fanbase believes they are the only thing standing between an idol and total mental collapse, their loyalty becomes absolute, and their wallets open wider. 2 years ago, fans of both groups existed in relative harmony, even though everyone was legit hatting on ILLIT until their debut, which both fans liked at the time. They were semi-distinct entities under the same corporate umbrella. Instead of insulating their artists, the company turned them into pawns. They allowed the narrative of copycatting to fester on platforms like Twitter and Reddit. By letting the New Jeans versus ILLIT debate run wild, the company ensured that every time one group released music, the other fandom would swarm to leave negative comments, engage in hate streaming, or spread misinformation to expose the other group's flaws. This is ragebait marketing in its purest, most toxic form. The executives knew that outrage fuels the algorithm. They didn't care that this fractured the fanbases, because a fractured fanbase is an active one. They turned music appreciation into a tribal war, and in that environment, fans feel pressured to defend their side by mass buying albums, which pads the company's bottom line. And the human cost, it's ignored. We've seen reports and viral clips suggesting a climate where members are almost encouraged to lean into their vulnerability for the camera. There is a deeply unsettling perception, often whispered in online fan spaces, that being visibly distressed, crying, or showing cracks in the armor is a calculated way to garner sympathy and drive views. Whether this is an explicit company mandate or a byproduct of an environment where trauma is the only thing that gets you trending, the result is the same. The idols are being trained to sell their pain. They are learning that the public only cares when they are crying or when they are in the center of a scandal. When a member's emotional breakdown becomes a marketing asset, you have crossed the line from artist management to emotional exploitation. Throughout the HYBE or legal battle, the information landscape was essentially a battlefield. We saw coordinated disinformation campaigns on platforms like Reddit and Twitter, bots and hyperpartisan fan accounts spreading half-truths about the lawsuit to influence public perception. HYBE leveraged its massive PR apparatus to frame the narrative in ways that consistently disadvantaged their own artists. By leaking selective documents or pushing specific angles to the press, they kept the conflict alive. They didn't want the truth, they wanted a story that kept their groups in the headlines. But look at the reality. Both ILLIT and New Jeans are now in a precarious position. ILLIT has been branded as a copycat by a public that was steered into that conclusion, while New Jeans has been subjected to relentless legal pressure and corporate attempts to invalidate their creative autonomy. Both groups are being squeezed by the very company that is supposed to protect them. They aren't rivals. They are both victims of a corporate strategy that finds their conflict more profitable than their success. But where this strategy crosses a very dangerous line from corporate negligence to active harm is with HXG's global group, KATSEY. During the Netflix docuseries Pop Star Academy, which documented the formation of the group, fans noticed a glaring, highly problematic narrative being pushed onto Manon, the group's only black member. The editing repeatedly highlighted instances of her being absent or struggling, heavily leaning into the historically racist trope of the lazy black woman. Let's be incredibly clear here. In reality, Manon was navigating illness, extreme pressure, and being a young black woman in a highly critical environment. But the showrunners and the label chose to frame her in a way that isolated her. They created a reality TV storyline that actively invited scrutiny. By doing this, they didn't just spark a fandom disagreement, they lit a match in a room full of systemic anti-blackness. And this brings us to the core issue, how this rage bait strategy directly harms the black community. When HXG pushed that narrative, it opened the floodgates for racist, xenophobic hate against Manon. In response, black fans did what they always have to do. They mobilized. There is a phrase, "I'm rooting for everybody black," and it exists because the community knows exactly how hard marginalized people have to fight just to exist in these spaces. Black fans streamed, voted, and fought exhausting battles online to protect Manon and ensure she made it into the final lineup. But here is the insidious part. The company benefits from that exhaustion. They get the massive engagement spikes, the viral tweets, the fiercely loyal demographic, and the cultural clout that comes with having a diverse group. They profit from the black community's protective instinct, all while doing the absolute bare minimum to actually protect their black artist from the racist vitriol they helped incite. So why do companies keep doing this if it's so damaging? The uncomfortable truth is that in the modern music industry, trauma and outrage are highly profitable metrics. By pushing these groups into the crosshairs of intense public scrutiny, HYBE and HXG successfully engineer a siege mentality among their fans. When LESSEIFIM or ILLIT get torn apart online for a live vocal performance, or when KATSEYE is trending because of racist backlash, the core fanbase doesn't just walk away, they double down. They mass buy albums to prove the haters wrong. They coordinate streaming parties to drown out the negativity. So we have to ask the most uncomfortable question of all, why target black fans specifically? Why is HXG perfectly fine with letting Manon take the brunt of this? To understand this, you have to understand the foundational role of black culture in modern pop music. K-pop as an industry was entirely built on the blueprint of black American music, from 90s R&B to modern hip-hop and trap. But historically, the industry just took the aesthetics while ignoring the actual people. Now, companies like HYBE want global dominance. They know that black fans are some of the most influential trendsetters on the internet. If you capture the black demographic, you capture the culture. But instead of genuinely protecting and nurturing their first black idol, HXG realized they could exploit the reality of anti-blackness to force engagement. Black fans know how quickly the industry will throw a black woman away if she isn't undeniably perfect. There is a deeply ingrained, communal instinct to protect black women in spaces where they are the minority. The labels know this. By intentionally putting Manon in a vulnerable, isolated position, whether through shady documentary edits or refusing to defend her from racist attacks, they trigger an emergency response from the black community. Black fans aren't just streaming to enjoy the music anymore, they are streaming to keep Manon in the room. The company is actively weaponizing black solidarity for profit. And make no mistake, this strategy is incredibly lucrative. Rage bait isn't just about Twitter impressions, it is a highly calculated sales funnel. When a group like KATSEYE or ILLIT gets trapped in a controversy, the algorithm heavily favors that negativity. Haters write essays, make TikToks, and leave thousands of comments. This pushes the group onto the feeds of the general public, generating millions of curiosity streams from people just wanting to know what the drama is about. But here, where the real money is made, defensive consumerism, when fans see their favorite group or member being torn apart, they panic. They organize mass streaming parties. They buy multiple versions of the same EP to artificially inflate chart numbers, desperately trying to prove to the company that the group is still viable despite the hate. The label sits back, stays silent, and watches their quarterly profits skyrocket. The artists endure severe psychological distress, but to the shareholders, it just looks like record-breaking engagement. If you want the perfect, most infuriating example of how transactional this has become, just look at what is happening right now. Today is June 26th, Manon's birthday. For the past few months, Manon has been placed on a highly suspicious health hiatus. She has been virtually erased from the group's current activities, cut out of choreography, and entirely unacknowledged by the label. Fans have been begging for a simple update, wondering if she is even legally allowed to speak, or if she's quietly being pushed out of the group she helped build. But suddenly, because it's her birthday, she is useful again. The label knows that Manon is the undisputed engagement driver for K80SEY. Her solo TikToks pull massive numbers, and her face brings in the international audience. So they use her birthday as a designated engagement farm. They'll put out a hashtag, let the fans trend it worldwide, and collect all the algorithmic clout that comes with having a beloved black artist. They use her name for views, they use her face for diversity points, and they use her struggles to keep her fans traumatically bonded to the group. But the second the birthday trends die down, they throw her right back to the side. She is treated as a metric, not a human being. This is the absolute zenith of rage-bait marketing. The company refuses to answer if she is still an active member, but they will absolutely drop a pre-scheduled, highly stylized birthday graphic because they know you will click it. They know the black fans who have been starving for a crumb of information will quote tweet it, analyze it, and push it to the top of the global trending charts. They are farming her ghost for engagement. They are using the anxiety of her absence to drive their daily active user metrics. It is a grotesque paradox. Manon is simultaneously deemed too much of a liability to actively promote, but far too profitable to let go. To fully grasp why rage-bait marketing involving black idols is so potent and so destructive, we have to look at the cultural fault lines these companies are deliberately exploiting. The K-pop industry is no longer just regional, it is a global export. But as these companies expand, they are operating across vastly different cultural spheres, some of which have deep-seated systemic issues with colorism and anti-blackness. This isn't a secret. Over the years, we've seen numerous international controversies that highlight this, from tone-deaf television broadcasts to deeply offensive advertising campaigns, such as the infamous racist laundry detergent ad in China, or historical instances of racist caricatures and merchandise in various regional markets. These incidents reveal a systemic ignorance, and in some spaces, outright hostility toward black people. HYBE and HXG possess world-class market research teams. They are acutely aware of the racial dynamics in their primary consumer bases. They know that by debuting a black idol like Manon in an industry historically plagued by colorism, they are going to trigger a severe cultural clash. To understand the true scale of this manipulation, we have to pull back the curtain and look at the architecture of modern idol manufacturing. This isn't just a misstep by a social media manager, it is a calculated operation that begins in the editing bay. Let's re-examine the Pop Star Academy footage. Documentary filmmaking is an exercise in reality manipulation. Out of 10,000 hours of raw footage, the showrunners have to construct a cohesive narrative. But when HXG constructed Manon's narrative, they didn't just tell a story of an underdog, they explicitly utilized the visual language of reality TV villainy. Notice the packing. Notice the lingering shots on her empty chair in the dance studio. Notice the specific interviews chosen from other contestants expressing frustration. The directors actively curated a digital coliseum. They understood that in 2024, you don't need the general public to unanimously love a group to make them successful. You just need a fractured audience that cares enough to argue. By framing Manon as the outlier, they established a built-in wedge issue for the fandom from day one. It wasn't a documentary, it was the psychological conditioning of a consumer base. And this brings us to the most predatory aspect of the modern label apparatus, the illusion of inclusion. For years, the K-pop industry faced a ceiling in the Western market. They had mastered the synchronization, the visuals, and the merchandise, but to achieve total global saturation, they needed cultural authenticity. They needed the demographic that drives internet culture, dictates slang, and creates viral trends. They needed the black consumer. But corporations like HYBE and HXG want the fruits of black culture, without the responsibility of protecting black bodies. When K80SEYE debuted, Manon wasn't just a member. To the executives, she was a cultural bridge. She was the proof of concept that HXG was truly global. But the moment that global pushback arrived, the moment the systemic anti-black racism inherent in these fandom spaces reared its head, the company vanished. They practice a form of digital extraction. They mine the black community for defense, for streams, for fiercely coordinated voting campaigns, and for the cultural credibility that comes with a diverse roster. But protection, therapy, public statements condemning the racism their own editing helped validate, silence, they extract the capital and leave the community to manage the trauma. And here is where the rage bait strategy becomes truly sinister. The labels don't just anticipate the racist backlash, they count on it. When HXG presented Manon with an isolating edit on Pop Star Academy, they were essentially throwing a match onto a powder keg of systemic anti-blackness. They knew that a toxic subset of the global audience, emboldened by unchecked colorism, would attack her. And conversely, they knew that black international fans, recognizing this systemic abuse, would fiercely rush to her defense. This collision is an algorithmic goldmine. The platforms we use, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, do not distinguish between a hate comment and a supportive one. They only see engagement. When a racist subset of fans begins mocking a black idol, and black fans retaliate to protect her, the algorithm pushes the group to the top of the trending charts. The companies sit comfortably in the middle, raking in the profits generated by this digital race war. They use Manon's presence to signal to Western markets that they are progressive, diverse, and global. But when the predictable wave of anti-black harassment arrives from prejudiced corners of the internet, the company abruptly adopts a policy of neutrality. They refuse to moderate their platforms. They refuse to issue statements condemning the racism. They allow the abuse to happen because the resulting controversy keeps their group relevant in the fast-paced attention economy. It is a calculated abdication of responsibility. They are monetizing the trauma of systemic racism. By failing to protect their black artists from the very prejudices they know exist in the market, these labels aren't just bystanders, they are beneficiaries of anti-blackness. For years, K-pop stood as a pillar of high-concept, high-production artistry. But recently, a chorus of listeners has pointed to a troubling decline in quality. Tracks like the recent Iconic by Mistake collaboration between LESSEIFIM, ILLIT, and KATSEYE have been slammed by critics as surface-level and overproduced garbage, songs that rely on aggressive sound effects and repetitive, "I'm iconic," messaging rather than true musical substance. But here is the paradox. As the music quality is perceived to decline, the profit margins remain high. Why? Because the industry has successfully gamified fandom. The marketing strategy has shifted from sell the song to sell the struggle. By embedding their groups in constant, manufactured drama, whether it's the HYBE versus ADOR corporate civil war, the fabricated rivalry between ILLIT and New Jeans, or the systematic isolation of members like KATSEYE's Manon, the company ensures that listening to the music is no longer about the melody. It's about taking a side. This is the company-minded fan. They have been conditioned to believe that their consumption is a form of protection. When a song is criticized for being bad, these fans don't reflect on the music. They view the critique as an attack on the group's survival. They are conditioned to believe that if they don't mass stream, mass buy, and trend hashtags to drown out the haters, their favorites will be disappeared by the corporate machine. This creates a self-sustaining loop. The company releases a track, the internet rightfully calls it mediocre, the fans panic buy to prove the haters wrong, and the company hits its Q3 projections. The music quality becomes secondary to the tribal engagement generated by the rage bait cycle. The fans are no longer customers of art. They are unpaid security guards for a corporate brand, and they've been trained to ignore the drop in quality because their priority has shifted to a defensive, emotional obligation to the brand's victory. When the success of a song is tied directly to how many people you can anger, you kill the space for artistic growth. Why bother writing a masterpiece when pity stanning and hate streaming are more efficient, cheaper, and provide a higher return on investment? Groups like New Jeans, as they are now with post-HYBE Adore, ILLIT, and the others are essentially victims of this same machine. They are put in a position where their only path to success is to serve as vessels for this corporate-mandated drama. The music isn't the point anymore, the controversy is. And as long as fans continue to prioritize protecting their bias over demanding actual artistry, New Jeans fans do care about the music, but that's besides the point. The music will continue to suffer. We're not witnessing the evolution of pop, we're witnessing its commodification into a weapon of mass distraction. The question isn't whether the music will get better, it's whether the fans will ever wake up and stop paying for their own exploitation. They most likely won't because we are targeting children. When a company like HYBE pushes a sisterhood narrative or allows a rage bait cycle to spin out of control, they aren't just creating content for adults to debate on Twitter. They are creating an environment for children that is fundamentally high stress. Constant accessibility. Through messaging apps like Weverse and endless vlog content, these companies simulate a 24/7 friendship. For a lonely teenager, this feels real. It replaces genuine, face-to-face social interaction with a one-sided relationship that can never be reciprocated. The illusion of reciprocity. When idols speak directly to the camera, using the language of friendship, they are playing into a child's desire to be seen. The industry knows that once a child believes their favorite idol needs them, they will perform any task to ensure that idol's success, be it voting, streaming, or defending them against hate trains. Manufactured tribalism. By forcing the sisterhood narrative, they force kids to pick sides. If you don't support Group A, you're a bad person. If you don't defend Group B, you're betraying the family. It conditions young, impressionable minds to view everything through a lens of us versus them, and us versus the world. It isn't just emotional manipulation, it is predatory economics. They know children don't have the critical media literacy to distinguish between an authentic moment and a calculated KPI. They know that when a child sees their sister, their idol, being attacked online, they will use their parents' credit card to buy extra albums to save them. This is not marketing to an audience. This is exploiting a developmental vulnerability. The companies are effectively training a generation to equate their own emotional well-being and their financial resources with the success of a corporate brand. When a 14-year-old spends their birthday money on a digital photo card because they feel a moral obligation to protect a star from a hate train, that isn't fandom. That is a failure of corporate ethics. We've talked about the hate, the lawsuits, and the exploitation, but there is one more, arguably more insidious tool in the corporate arsenal, the forced sisterhood. You see it everywhere now. HYBE's labels don't just promote individual groups, they promote the idea of a massive, interconnected family. They release content like the My Sisterhoody collaboration, where groups like LESSEIFIM, ILLIT, and KATSEYE are shown laughing, designing clothes together, and performing choreographed challenges in elevators. It looks sweet, right? It looks like organic, genuine friendship. But it's a strategic performance. It's the digital equivalent of an office team-building exercise, but the stakes are in the hundreds of millions. Here is why this sisterhood is essential to rage-bait marketing. It creates a shared liability. By forcing these groups to constantly perform this sisterhood, the company ensures that the fandoms are tethered to one another. If you are a fan of LESSEIFIM, you are now socially pressured to support ILLIT and KATSEYE because they are sisters. If you criticize one, you're not just a critic, you're an outsider attacking the family. This effectively shields the company from accountability. When one group is caught in a controversy, the other groups are deployed to provide support or appear in TikTok challenges, acting as a human shield of positivity. It forces fans into a state of forced tribalism. They aren't allowed to dislike a song or a decision without feeling like they are betraying the sisterhood. It is designed to make you feel like you're part of a bigger movement, a HYB family that you have to defend at all costs. The most tragic part, this narrative is being sold to the girls themselves. They are young, often in an intensely competitive environment, and they are told that their career success is tied to this sisterhood. They have to perform this intimacy for the camera, knowing that if they don't, they risk looking like mean girls or uncooperative team players. They are forced to smile for the camera, while their corporate handlers are busy leaking stories to pit their fanbases against one another in the comments section. It's psychological gaslighting. You're being told to love your sisters on camera, while the company is actively fostering a climate where your fans and your sister's fans are tearing each other to pieces on Twitter and Reddit.